Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. And boy, do we have a lot to cover this morning. We're going to be talking about the breaking news coming in late last night. The Graham Plantner has suspended his campaign. We're going to talk about the repercussions of that, kind of the blind faith in him at the beginning by the Democrats and sticking with him really till the end before they could no longer stick to him, before it became too much. We are going to talk about that. Also, Iran. We've got a couple of quick New York updates. First, comment from a viewer coming in last night. This viewer writes in, I nominate President Trump for the World Peace Prize, a prize more noble than the Nobel Peace Prize itself. If it would ever be conceived of, he would be the first recipient. God bless President Trump. Thank you very much. Now, Trump made good last night on his pledge to hit Iran hard for the second straight night. This is, as we reported yesterday, after the president called Iran scum and liars. He made good on hitting Iran hard last night before warning attacks will get much worse if Tehran continues to target ships in the Strait of Hormuz. This is after calling Iran's ruling clerics such things as scum, evil, loco, and sick people at the annual NATO summit. Quote, this is in a retribution for yesterday's bombing of ships by Iran, he wrote on Truth Social. If it happens again, it will get much worse. The U.S. strikes are the fourth on Iran since the beginning or the signing of the preliminary peace deal, the Memorandum of Understanding. At the summit in Turkey, Trump fumed that he no longer saw a point in continuing negotiations, as we mentioned yesterday. He said, I'm not sure I want to make a deal. Let's just finish the job. He explained he abandoned his assessment of Iranian leaders, thinking that they were more rational after, quote, I got to know them. They said to us, please don't kill us during the funeral of late Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. I said, I won't, and we didn't do anything. And then they attacked 3 ships. So I don't like them at all, and frankly, I think we waste a lot of time with them. They're scum and they're evil people. Now, he defended the Operation Epic Fury as a tremendous success, despite what he called the apparent failure of the Memorandum of Understanding to end the war. The president also threatened to seize Karg Island, the hub for about 90% of Iran's oil exports, and warned he would reimpose a naval blockade on Iranian ships in the Strait of Hormuz as he outlined a range of possible actions, saying, in one day, we could knock down every single bridge in Iran. There's not a thing they can do about it. If we have to, we'll take them out. They have plants. We'll take them out. If we have to, maybe we'll take over Karg Island. So that's where we stand this morning. Also breaking yesterday that he was not going to take his new Air Force One back home, that he was going to use the older, if you will, Air Force One. I'll give them a little warning. We're going to hit them hard tonight, but we'll see how it all works out. We may put it back, the blockade. Of course, they will drop some mines if they can, but it's hard because we're taking out those little boats now with the same weapons we use to take out the drug lords and the boats coming by sea. Now, the price of Brent crude did jump yesterday, nearly 4.5%, but then did dip lower, Approximately 90 targets were hit last night, according to CENTCOM, including air defense systems, coastal surveillance assets, missiles and drone storage sites, naval capabilities, and military logistics infrastructure along Iran's coastline. The latest strikes come one day after U.S. forces carried out what CENTCOM described as offensive strikes in Iran, hitting roughly 80 military targets, including more than 60 Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps small boats. Now, Trump also said yesterday that that Iran wants a deal so badly, that Iran called a little while ago and wants a deal so badly after the United States launched a second consecutive night of strikes. This was on Air Force One while returning to Washington from the NATO summit. They called a little while ago. They want to make a deal so badly. I just don't know if they're worthy of making a deal. I don't know if they're going to honor the deal. That's the problem. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but that is the major problem. Let's say they make this deal. We make a deal. Are they reliable? Are they trustworthy? I think the answer has been proven time and time again for 47 years that they are not. Asked why Iran would attack commercial vessels if it wanted an agreement, Trump said the regime was sort of crazy and a little bit out of control. They want to make a deal. We just hit them very hard. We hit them 20-1. Every time they hit us, we're going to hit them 20-fold. Now, U.S. forces, according to CENTCOM, remain vigilant, lethal, and prepared to execute operations directed by the commander-in-chief. Trump said this is retribution for yesterday's bombing of ships by Iran. If it happens again, it will get much worse. Now, Vice President J.D. Vance earlier described the administration's posture in similar terms, saying, if you shoot at ships, we are going to punch back, and we're going to punch back harder than ever before. Now, Iranian officials threatened, of course, retaliation, which is typical. Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalib warned, if you strike, we'll get hit. You'll get hit. America still hasn't learned that bullying and breaking promises are no longer cost-free. Insisting the Strait of Hormuz would open only under Iranian agreements, not American threats. Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister, not even going to try, warned the American strikes will not go unanswered. While the foreign minister said Iran would not answer vulgarity with vulgarity, but with action. Trump says that Iran lies and cheats, but what we're learning, according to Efrat Lachter at Fox News, that the IRGC seems to be the dominant force in these negotiations with the U.S., which is very troubling if you want a deal. Trump's frustration with Iran's negotiators is only part of the problem. Since the death of Ayatollah al-Khamenei, it has become increasingly unclear who in Tehran has authority to make and enforce an agreement, because we have their supreme leader who has yet to be seen or heard. Mojtaba Khamenei succeeded his father and has not appeared publicly since the attack, and U.S. assessments cited by Reuters have described authority as dispersed among, this is the important takeaway, senior Revolutionary Guard commanders and powerful civilian officials. Now, the parliament speaker, who I mentioned earlier, Mohammad Bagher Ghalib, has emerged as one of the country's most powerful surviving political figures. And there's others. We're not going to go through all the names. But they're saying the hardliners, in terms of their political presence, have also been pushed aside. So really it's the IRGC, and within the IRGC, whoever signs the deal is not necessarily signing on behalf of everybody else. They're signing on behalf of themselves. So that is going to be one of the major concerns. And again, it goes back to, can they be trusted? What the president said, can they be trusted in a deal to begin with? Taken together, the experts' assessment suggests Tehran is unlikely to face a simple choice between surrendering to Trump's pressure and returning to negotiations. Bed Talib said the regime believes its survival depends on more, not less, escalation, while the Farti said it is deliberately playing out the clock by creating repeated regional crises. That raises the prospect that even Iranian officials, if they return to the table, the IRGC could continue targeting commercial ship, U.S. interests, and American allies to preserve its leverage and strengthen its position inside Iran. So too many factions, too many sects, kind of warring within themselves. So just because a deal could be reached, and that could be what we're seeing now, a deal could be reached, a ceasefire during the funeral of Ayatollah al-Khamenei, where we saw all those horrific signs calling for the assassination of Trump and Netanyahu. Even a deal like that can ultimately end because a different group could start the shooting again, the bombing in the Strait. But as I mentioned, Trump returned to the U.S. on the quote-unquote old Air Force One. Of course, that's raised conspiracy theories about, is the new Air Force One as protected, as safe? Trump said the new $400 million Air Force One would be sent home through Europe so soldiers could see it, but he acknowledged he is Iran's number one target when asked about the switch up, saying, "I'm number one on the kill list of Iran. I don't really care because I'm doing my job." While also joking he preferred being number one on TikTok. I'm sure number one on TikTok does sound a little bit better than number one on the kill list for Iran. But I am number one on the list for killing, he added. When a reporter followed up on why he wasn't taking the new plane, Trump said it was flying to military bases where he can show it to the people and will be going home by normal methods. But we have it going to Europe to a couple of bases, actually one in particular. But it's going to a couple of bases so the soldiers can see it because it's truly magnificent. Now, he announced earlier yesterday that he would send the new plane to Royal Air Force Mildenhall in the United Kingdom and instead would take the older plane. On Truth Social, saying to honor our brave men and women of the military, we are sending the brand new and truly spectacular Air Force One to Mildenhall Air Force Base in the United Kingdom to give them a chance to tour the aircraft. Everybody is so excited, and we thought they should be the first. For old time's sake, we'll be taking the former Air Force One from Turkey to Mildenhall, a short trip that is totally worth doing in order to give our great military heroes a chance to appreciate our beautiful new addition to the Air Force fleet. Now, throughout his comments at the NATO summit yesterday, he repeated that he might be on Iran's assassination list, saying they had leaders, they're gone. And they had another set of leaders, they're gone. Now they have another set of leaders, they may be gone, who knows? And you know what? I may be gone too because I'm their number one target. Now, if you remember, this name, Leon Panetta from the Obama administration, says this is a cover story. You know, this is Leon Panetta, again, served under Barack Obama. He was on, of course, MS Now, saying, you know, I've always been concerned about security issues with this kind of plane that's built by another country, regardless of the fact that a country we may have good relations with, that country. The fact is that from a security point of view, we've got to be concerned that there are going to be efforts to try to gather intelligence. I'm sure they've reviewed the whole plane, but as somebody involved with security, I'd be very concerned about making sure that the president's security is protected. The only way to do that is by having the plane made in the United States and carrying the equipment that is provided by the United States so that we can assure that the president is not only secure but safe. So I don't think there's any question that there are security concerns here. What we don't know, but I'm sure that's involved. What they are, we don't know, but I'm sure that's what's involved. It's a brand new plane. If there's a maintenance issue with a brand new plane, that raises even more concerns. I don't think this is about maintenance. This is a cover story of some kind to try to deploy one plane to Britain and have the president return to the old plane that was Air Force One there. There's more going on. I think the war in Iran may have something to do with it. He is in Turkey. It's right next to Iran. There does have to be some real concerns about the president's security. Even he himself basically admitted the concern about his personal security. So for all of those reasons, I think that a decision was made to try to protect the safety of the president. Now, according to, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this and give you some opinion pieces on that, but again on MSN Now, Representative Adam Smith, a Democrat, has accused President Trump of trying to execute a fascist takeover of this country. Everybody just tries to seem to outdo each other, don't they? Again, Representative Adam Smith saying it's a continued problem that President Trump is focused on himself and unhinged from reality. He is not connected to the real world. Remember, we won the war against Iran, and Iran conceded to all of our demands. Gosh, I lose track at this point. I think it was like 2 months ago that he first made that claim. So while Donald Trump is rambling on about the world that exists in his mind, the world that the rest of us, the real world, are dealing with is in deep trouble because of the spectacularly bad decisions that he has made, like starting the war with Iran, like breaking while damaging the NATO alliance by threatening Greenland and other countries which give aid and comfort to Vladimir Putin at a time when we really need to be behind Ukraine. So the biggest reaction is we have a president of the United States who is not connected to reality or just rambling in a variety of different directions, while we have very serious problems that we need to address and that are getting worse. I'm firmly of the opinion that Trump is trying to execute a fascist takeover of this country, not to mention the foreign policy disasters that he's engaged in. We need to stop him. A little threatening there at the end. So a fascist takeover, even though when he mentions Ukraine, I see that Trump said that America will teach Ukraine to make its own Patriot missiles. So I'm not sure, maybe That broke after Representative Smith tried to suggest that Trump was executing a fascist takeover of the country. So, again, announcing yesterday at the NATO summit that Ukraine won't be able to complain any longer that America and the West aren't giving it enough advanced defensive interceptor missiles because they'll be allowed to make their own domestically. The plan to radically boost production of the sophisticated, highly demanded, and long lead time weapon by allowing Ukrainian factories to produce them was announced by President Donald Trump at the NATO summit. Urgently asking for Patriot missiles has been a key theme for President Zelensky for months, and it's unclear whether Trump's remarks to journalists as he sat beside the Ukrainian leader are the first time Zelensky heard about the plan to hand over the blueprints, though President Trump certainly presented the news as if it were a surprise. All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about Iran, though, when we return. I see some comments coming in. Keep them coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Hi, this is Tom Witzel, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is the start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Live a carefree, engaging lifestyle at Apple Ridge Senior Living, where exceptional is the standard. It's time to redefine your future. Pursue your passions and make meaningful connections. Enjoy an inclusive and customizable senior living experience. Everything you could want, more than you expect. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and schedule your tour today.
Looking for a meaningful day trip close to home? Visit the historic Elmira Prison Camp, one of the most significant Civil War sites in the North. Walk the grounds, stand where history happened, discover powerful stories of courage, sacrifice, and survival that shaped our nation. Whether you're a history enthusiast, a family looking to learn together, or simply exploring the Finger Lakes region, we offer an experience you won't forget. Plan your visit today at elmiracivilwar.org. Preserve, discover, remember.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers, an isolated thunderstorm possible after about 5 p.m. A high still in the upper 80s today. Then we'll see lows in the mid-60s overnight with additional shower and storm potential. Friday's high, 83. We'll stay active with some wet weather on Friday, followed by a consistent dry stretch. Temperatures trending up from there, so that will be back with some low 90s as we approach the middle.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. And we got a lot of comments coming in. Let's get right to them. Ken, changing up topic, and Ken, we're going to be getting to this, the Grant Plattner situation in a moment. If you haven't heard breaking news last night, he released a video where he's suspending his campaign. So Ken says, I wonder if we will ever know the exit deal that Planter got from the Democrats. I also predict that the Democrats will wait until very close to July 27th, the last day the Democrats can name Plattner's replacement, to tell the sheeple who they will be voting for. And after that, the legacy media will start to constantly paint the candidate as an amazing selection while the Democrats slowly introduce that candidate to the public. Yeah, the less they know. I mean, they thought that would be a little bit of a winning idea with Harris. I think they're going to probably try to do it in this scenario. What they say would be from the 27th, something like 99 days a person would have. So, yes, they don't want you to know who it is. Really, it'll be a great rollout. It'll be the best pick they could possibly make. That it'll be the person clean as fresh driven snow, and then they'll have the slow rollout in hopes that voters don't have enough time to learn about the actual candidate. Comment from a different viewer: who's living in a fantasy land, President Trump or that delusional Democrat? Oh, the Democrat who said that he's trying to execute fascism in this country. Terrorist attacks all over the world for the last 46 years. President Trump started the war. I think the Democrats need to reconsider his position. Thank you very much. Mark writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. If Trump believes them again, he would be a fool. Blast them hard and end it. It's been going on too long. I've got a piece on that, Mark, that kind of echoes what you say here in just a second. And then we get a comment from Fred. Good morning, Fred, who also says good morning to me. I think that it is very likely that President Trump was intentionally misled by the intelligence community to believe that the Iran situation would not go the way that it has. It's a fair point. The religious zealots in charge there have no interest in doing what is best for the Iranian people. They never have. You cannot, quote, make a deal with them. They came to power through a revolution 47 years ago and have controlled their population through violence ever since. You raise a great point, Fred, and I think that was why a lot of people were concerned, because we saw the delay tactics. We saw Iran stringing us along with this memorandum of understanding and these potential peace deals, but at the same time causing trouble in the Strait of Hormuz. And we have that piece that's suggesting there's so many quote-unquote leaders with no actual leader that you could have one group starting issue with this in the Strait while the other group wants negotiations. But I think at the end of the day, they can't be trusted with any type of deal. And that's what Mark Dubowitz, hey, Mark, there's a different Mark, but same concept. Just 3 weeks after it was signed, the memorandum of understanding between the U.S. and Iran is on life support. I would argue that it's over, but Tehran's promise to keep the Strait of Hormuz open for international shipping turned out to be about as trustworthy as every other major promise the Islamic Republic has ever made. As the regime was busy staging the lavish funeral for Ayatollah al-Khamenei, Iranian forces went ahead and attacked 3 commercial vessels transiting the Strait. And this is the same funeral where you had all the signs and the chanting, the cheers about assassinating Trump, assassinating Netanyahu. Now, the United States has struck nearly 100 military targets across Iran in response, actually more than that at this point. President Trump has dismissed the negotiation as a waste of time, and he's right. Unlike much of Washington, Trump has long grasped that the Islamic Republic negotiates only to keep itself afloat. During his first term, Trump pulled a plug on Obama's deeply flawed nuclear deal. And we only learned it was deeply flawed after Trump was trying to work out a deal. Did you notice that? The mainstream media, this is the New York Post, so this is different, but the mainstream media told us the deal was the best thing that ever happened. But then when they wanted to use it as a weapon against Trump, they said it was a horrible idea, or it was a horrible deal, I should say. But that's in his first term is when he ordered the elimination of Qasem Soleimani, the mastermind behind Iran's global terrorist network. In his second term, he twice deployed American military power against the regime, first in June of 2025 and again this year. Yet Tehran seemed convinced it could simply recycle the same playbook that had worked for decades. The strategy, offer negotiations, buy time, secure sanction relief, drive a wedge between the United States and its allies, rebuild military capabilities, fund terrorist proxies, ramp up missile production, and of course, preserve the nuclear program until the next opportune moment. For years, the strategy worked because Western governments were genuinely desperate for diplomacy to succeed. This time, however, Iran badly miscalculated. To be fair, mixed signals emanating from Washington might have contributed to that mistake. On the one hand, the Trump administration promised Iran major sanction relief. At other moments, it issued warnings of devastating military consequences. These contradictory messages apparently convinced Tehran that it could once again manipulate the process to its advantage. The lesson for the U.S. is that it must stop negotiating with a regime that weaponizes negotiations. The objective shouldn't be just limiting uranium enrichment. It needs to end permanently with verification. Iran's nuclear infrastructure must be dismantled and its enriched uranium stockpile completely removed. That requires reinstating maximum pressure across every single front. We need to reimpose a blockade on Iranian ports. Iran's ability to export oil must be permanently revoked. Frozen assets should remain frozen, rather than being used to finance the regime's next bout of aggression. Crushing sanctions need to be enforced with no loopholes. The president should direct the U.S. military to win the Battle of Hormuz. He should establish a maritime insurance organization backed by billions from countries vulnerable to the close of Hormuz and other critical maritime choke points. Washington also shouldn't tolerate Tehran using proxies like Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen to bully negotiators. The regime has shown economic incentives do not stop its revolutionary ambitions. Yes, renewed confrontation carries risks. Oil prices could spike, and political calendars may become more complicated. But those are manageable costs. Allowing the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism to rebuild its power under the guise of yet another failed negotiation is far more dangerous. Lasting change will have to come from the Iranian people themselves, who have consistently demonstrated extraordinary courage and confronting their oppressors. Trump should direct his intelligence community to develop a plan to provide maximum support to the Iranian people, aimed at crippling the regime. Trump has recognized that the Islamic Republic exploits diplomacy as a strategy of delay, deception, and ultimately survival. The mistake now would be giving Tehran another opportunity to prove that point. That's Mark Dubowitz, chief executive of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Now, Trump, and we're going to move on from this. I've got a couple of quick things I just have to mention to you at some point. Then we're getting into Graham Plantner because I know that is the big issue of the day. But I wanted to kind of kick off the broadcast with some Iranian discussions. The New York Post editorial board, I think, I'm not going to say the mindset of everyone here, but the concept of this piece is a pray that Trump means it this time when he says the Iran ceasefire is over. He also, what is encouraging is he isn't as desperate to return to the negotiations, to a ceasefire. Because so far, Iran has only jerked us around without giving the faintest hint it'll ever agree to any U.S. demands. And we know all the quotes from Trump at this point. But frankly, Trump should never have agreed to a ceasefire deal in the first place. Certainly not one that made generous concessions to Iran as this one did, while getting virtually bupkis in return. For starters, it's never been clear how much power Iran's negotiators actually hold, whether they'll ever budge on U.S. demands, or most troubling, whether they'd stick to any deal they ultimately agree to. Indeed, the fact that Iran has failed to honor even the generous terms of the ceasefire leaves little hope it would honor any permanent deal. Instead, it's given every reason to think it will not honor a deal. The Strait of Hormuz, recall, was supposed to be 100% open and hostilities were to end. Yet Iran insists it controls the strait and enforces that with attacks. It's launched repeated strikes ever since the parties signed the Memorandum of Understanding, where satellite imagery shows Iran conducting construction projects at the Pickaxe Mountain nuclear facility, another alarming violation of the agreement. And the ruling powers have made their intentions clear in their words as well as their deeds. Iran's Assembly of Experts, for example, officially called for Trump's death, along with that of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. During the mourning of their former supreme leader, Ayatollah al-Khamenei, shouts of death to America and revenge dominated. Seeking justice against the United States and Israel for the supreme leader's blood will remain an enduring demand of the Iranian nation, an official Iranian foreign minister said in a statement. Does anyone really think the regime will truly give up its pursuit of nukes, or its support for terror groups like Hezbollah, or its desire for revenge on Americans and Israelis? Trump responds to Iran's latest provocations with military strikes and by reimposing sanctions. On Wednesday, he also is mulling the idea of restoring the naval blockade on Iran and even targeting civilian infrastructure. Yet, at the same time, he's all but ruling out a serious effort to finish the job he and Israel admirably embarked on in February. He said, "I don't think a full-scale war is going to start again. Anything that happens is going to be over very quickly. We're not looking for long-term." Now, the New York Post, and this is why I bring this up, I'm curious your thoughts. The New York Post questions that by saying, isn't he the great negotiator? What kind of incentive does Iran have for a deal if it knows it faces no long-term consequences for holding out? Unless Team Trump commits to doing whatever it takes to rein in these nuke-hungry thugs, and no matter how long it takes to do it, he stands little chance of a full victory. All right, your thoughts on that? We're going to read some comments when we return. Running just a little bit late, but that's okay. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in. We're already up to 14 waves. It's only 6:29, so stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
This was our last chance to show who our son was. I can't say enough about pre-planning. When you are in those moments, you are not thinking clearly.
We showed up for the remembrance, and we walked in, and we just, wow.
It was arranged perfectly. Yeah. I certainly could not have done that in that moment. So to have those pre-conversations, it's really important.
Visit carpentersphillipsflint.com to learn more about our family-owned funeral homes.
I had to pack up all my things. I had had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say.
Frankie down that big valley.
But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
He's off the news.
More cars.
Hey, let's go.
Lower prices. More cars at lower prices. You've waited long enough. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at Simmons-Rockwell.com, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
Did you know we waste as much as 40% of all the food we produce globally? Did you also know that each year, millions of acres of wildlife habitat are plowed over, and billions of gallons of water is guzzled up to produce that food? And your wallet is taking a hit too. Americans toss out more than $382 billion worth of food per year. That's a lot of waste. But did you know that there are simple things you can do to help? And spread the word that food should never be trash. Visit us at wwf.earth.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street. Quoting comment from a viewer. Let's look at the Islam religious leaders of Iran. The Ten Commandments were presented to Moses in the Old Testament long before these crazy zealots came into existence. But they have lied, murdered, stolen, the list goes on. So wouldn't it be fair to say that the religion of these leaders is a satanically oriented one? And then good morning, by the way. It is definitely radical. It is, I mean, when you're calling to death of America, death to Trump. But let's move on from Iran for just a moment. Because I'm running late, I've got 4 or 5 updates here and just some crazy things before we talk about Grand Planner. Okay, which is also crazy and amongst itself. So America's support for capitalism has declined over the last decade. A new Wall Street Journal NORC survey finds that older and conservative people are more optimistic about the country. Now, being that it's, I believe this was, the Wall Street Journal, they would not give me the full article, and I'm not going to buy a subscription. But Americans are losing confidence in 2 main pillars of society, capitalism and democracy. Just under half of Americans say capitalism is working very well or even somewhat well, down from 60% who said so about a decade ago. Only 35% are even fairly sure that the nation offers people the ability to get good jobs and achieve the American dream. Now, we know that we received about around a 9 when it came to patriotism on our impromptu survey. But we've had stories like this now for a couple months leading up to America 250. Now, apparently after, the people are questioning capitalism. Now, obviously, this is to give a boost to the Democrat Socialists of America, this poll. These polls have fluctuated so much that I think it goes to show you how bad polling actually is. In these surveys, it's an antiquated way of doing things. But I think you could tie it, if you accept their premise that people don't believe in capitalism, don't believe in democracy anymore, it maybe makes sense why we have this next article from The Atlantic. The end of reading is here. Optimism once believed that universal literacy was inevitable. Now it seems that the age of reading may be a short anomaly in human history. This goes back to the education system, people in general educating themselves, reading, learning. If you are indoctrinated from the very beginning, when I say that, I mean elementary school, maybe pre-K, but elementary school, all the way up through your time at a university, You're going to believe democracy is bad. You're going to believe capitalism is bad. You're not going to believe in American exceptionalism, because that's the kind of indoctrination. It's not anecdotal anymore. It's not just a few cases. It has been prevalent. It is I don't think it's deniable any longer, the indoctrination. And so no wonder you see people not believe in American exceptionalism, and you see the hatred over the weekend, the July 4th weekend, for this country under the guise of their hatred of Trump. I actually have a couple, maybe I could tie that in together with a couple other pieces. I don't know if I want to do that, though. I had a few things here about this, I guess you could just say, delusional anger at America and being supportive of America. Maybe we will go into that. But we tie that in. So now the Atlantic announcing that there's the reading's no longer important, that the end of reading is here. And it goes through, it was like a 12-page article. I don't think we need all that. But saying some 2,000 years later, under very different circumstances, the darkness is gathering again. Americans, once members of a proudly literate society, read much less than they used to. According to the National Endowment for the Arts, which it conducts the most comprehensive survey of the nation's reading habits, fewer than half of all adults reported having read a book of any kind in 2022. A long time ago. Only 38% read a novel or short story. A study analyzing 236,000 people and the responses that they gave to the American Time Youth Survey found that the proportion of Americans who read for pleasure on any given day fell from 28% in 2004 to 16% in 2023. Anyway, so the end of reading is nigh. And maybe that's why we can also tie in not only the questioning of democracy, the questioning of faith, the questioning of capitalism, you name it, community. Maybe it leads to something like this as well. Talk about a wacky story. A New York City artist, and in full disclosure, we haven't brought up, and we won't bring up, only in this context, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's Madison Square Garden wedding. But bear with me, we're not going to bring up the wedding. This New York City artist is selling small plastic cubes filled with literal garbage to Taylor Swift fans. It includes cigarette butts, straws. Anyway, $25 a piece. So if you want garbage from around Madison Square Garden from the day that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce got married, it'll only cost you $25. And here's why I say maybe the end of reading is near. Maybe the education system has failed us. Well, because the trash cubes have already sold out. The guy's name, Justin Gignac, has been gathering refuse from city streets surrounding the world-famous arena since last week's closed-door ceremony, betting that pop music's fanatical fans will open their wallets for the privilege of owning their very own piece of Taylor-adjacent garbage, trash. He says he sold more than 1,300 1-inch by 1-inch by 3-inch square inch. What? Let me try it again. 1-inch by 1-inch by 3/4 inch litter-stuffed cubes across 30 countries. The trash cubes, ultimately labeled New York City garbage and not invited edition, Taylor and Travis's wedding, have been flying out the door as fast as he can create them, even at the lofty price tag of $25 plus $10 in shipping. Each sculpture is carefully arranged and sealed so it won't leak or smell, and signed by this artist, Justin, at the bottom. I think that's enough of that. But that's going to lead us into a few things here about America and celebrating America 250 when we return. Yes, I'm getting out of order here, but I like it. Keep your comments coming in. Keep those waves coming in. We're already up to 17. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
When you're online, don't forget
Visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
How we start a conversation matters. Text CONVO to 51550 for weekly conversation starters and connect more with parenting.org from Boys Town.
At William R., they only handle motor vehicle accident cases.
No, we're not going to take any lowball offers.
There's nothing William loves more than fighting for his clients and giving them the big money they deserve.
Okay, wow.
But everyone needs an outlet, a chance to get away from it all.
Heads bowed, eyes closed, and now go to your happy place.
Rideshare truck, motorcycle, car, only call William Matar.
When a child is fighting a critical illness, one truth touches us all. Every child deserves a childhood. A wish sparks a ripple of hope that transforms communities far and wide. And when we grant wishes together, we create a movement of kindness, strength, and unity. Become a wishmaker today and be part of a journey that truly changes lives.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers, an isolated thunderstorm possible after about 5 p.m. A high still in the upper 80s today. Then we'll see lows in the mid-60s overnight with additional shower and storm potential. Friday's high, 83. We'll stay active with some wet weather on Friday, followed by a consistent dry stretch. Temperatures trending up from there, so that will be back with some low 90s as we approach the middle.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. A couple comments from viewers. Good morning, Frank. Have a wonderful day. Well, have a wonderful day yourself. That's so kind of you. Comment from a different viewer. Fred says, I'm just full of opinions this morning. Well, I love it, Fred. Keep them coming in. Your mention of the Iran nuclear material reminds me that while I do not understand how, I do understand that uranium nuclear material can be traced back to its source. I suggest the nuclear material that Iran had originally came from, that Iran has originally came from the United States via Russia, thanks to Hillary Clinton's Uranium One deal under the Obama administration when she was Secretary of State. Remember her giant red reset button and the billions Obama gave to Iran. Very good point. Very good memory, Fred. I appreciate that. Okay, let's keep them going. Where's the logic, this viewer said, in saying the end of reading is near? Maybe there have not been any interesting books being published, or maybe the internet is to blame, but to conclude that reading is not prevalent is absurd. Clearly, the author is grasping at straws in an effort to get people to read nonsensical garbage. I would agree. I think it's the shocking headline. You know, it's the Atlantic trying to make waves to get your attention. And I guess it worked. I mean, I reported on it, and others will report on it as well. Drudge, I think I got it from Drudge Report. So yeah, I'm with you, but they're trying to talk, and they're not saying it this way, but the kind of the dumbing down of the nation is happening. Comment from Mark, I personally don't care for Taylor Swift, and I'm surely not going to buy New York City garbage. We see enough of Mom Donnie, who I consider garbage. Thank you very much, Mark. Two quick things. An elite judge, the Democrat-nominated judge who helped an illegal migrant escape from her Wisconsin courtroom, remember that, has been given a softball penalty by a judge who used to be a top Democratic politician in the state. You remember this lady, this judge, helped illegal immigrant escape, going through kind of off-limits rooms. District Judge Lynn Adelman fined Judge Hannah Dugan just $5,000 as he excused her April 2025 crime, quote, any otherwise good person upset by immigration enforcement in this country, a view widely shared, made a bad decision in that moment. Wow, what a biased statement. The slap on the wrist penalty comes amid a wave of murder by illegal migrants and amid the massive economic dislocation to American families caused by migrants' willingness to work for very low wages. The, quote, punishment should fit the offender and not merely the crime, Adelman, the former Democratic speaker in the state legislature, told the courtroom. So think of that, not even hiding the bias there. An otherwise good person upset by immigration enforcement in this country, a view widely shared. Wow. Anyway, you get the idea. That was just an update. And Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, a Democrat, is, I guess you could say, demanding an official update on the well-being of Senator Mitch McConnell, saying allowing speculation to continue in the media is not fair to the senator or to Kentuckians. And my hope is that this provides him the opportunity to share the information in a transparent manner, direct from the source. McConnell's office hasn't disclosed what sent the 84-year-old to the hospital, nor when he might return. Conservative influencers have posted theories. I know some people have said that they've talked to Mitch McConnell, that they've spoken to him by phone for lengthy periods of time. Now, Thomas Massey thought it was an opportune time to joke, saying, I spoke to McConnell for about 20 minutes this morning. He said he would end the war with Iran, quit giving aid to Israel, stop spying on Americans without a warrant, and he's really sorry about how my primary turned out. Massey, I mean, the smug attitude of Massey. Anyway, when we return, I just have two quick things about America 250, and then we're going to get back to, I want to talk about Graham Plantner, of course, so stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Keep those great comments coming in. We're having a blast this morning. We'll be right back after this.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen. Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Thousands of North Atlantic right whales used to swim along the east coast of the United States and Canada. Collisions with ships and entanglement in fishing gear are killing these magnificent animals every year. They could go extinct in your lifetime. But there's hope. If we act now, before it's too late, join Oceana to save North Atlantic right whales from extinction.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers, an isolated thunderstorm possible after about 5 p.m. A high still in the upper 80s today. Then we'll see lows in the mid-60s overnight with additional shower and storm potential. Friday's high, 83. We'll stay active with some wet weather on Friday, followed by a consistent dry stretch. Temperatures trending up from there, so that will be back with some low 90s as we approach the middle of
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. These are two very appropriate comments. Ken writes in, how does this sound for the renaming of Iran after America's fascist king dictator Donald Trump takes the country over? I'm glad you're trying to make me do this here, Ken. Gilad Pamert, which is Donald Trump spelled backwards. It could be marketed as the New York City of the Middle East. Thank you, Ken. And how about this for a comment right after it? Happy belated birthday, Ken. Hope you had a great one. Some people do watch the program after, or maybe didn't have a chance to write in. So there you go, Ken. Thank you for that. I shouldn't have deleted it. Delano, that's a tough one. Donald Pamert. All right. Why is it controversial to say that you love America? It shouldn't be. But yeah, people are getting fired over this. I don't think we had time yesterday on the program or the time before, but there was a Lookout tram that climbs Lookout Mountain in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And on July 4th, 2026, America's 250th birthday, the conductor takes the microphone and says to the very, very few Americans in here, Happy Independence Day. To the rest of you, welcome to the greatest country on the face of the planet. And if you disagree, you can leave. Now, there was article after article of people saying they felt uncomfortable for the whole tram ride and that it was xenophobic and it was hate. So what do? Do you cheer this? You say, yes, God bless the USA. Or do you complain to the Chattanooga Area Regional Transportation Authority, which operates the ride? Offended passenger Nathan Shearer chose the latter, along with posting a petty video that has gone viral. In the end, conductor Jack Peterson was the one told to leave, fired over a simple love it or leave it sentiment. On TikTok, Shearer added the sensational hashtag xenophobia and racism, even though there was no suggestion of either in his statement. Why does his mind go to such a pessimistic place? After all, I have heard so many immigrants convey the same message. They do love this country. You'd be hard-pressed to find out who isn't grateful that they have been given the lottery ticket to live here. Why else do we think all these people who illegally spilled over the border under Biden are fighting tooth and nail to stay or coming here in the first place? I mean, the way Democrats present this country as being so bad, isn't it kind of sick of them to want to have the open borders, to welcome them to this country that they're so angry at? As for foreigners in general, look no further than the international soccer fans who have recently descended upon our shores and flyover states and delighted in the discovery of American hospitality, unique landscapes, and food like ranch dressing. And we brought that story to you. It's been heartwarming. And if you haven't followed it, and by the way, this is by Kristen Fleming, but if you haven't followed it, it's been heartwarming to see these people proud of our country in ways that sadly we see a lot in the mainstream media and a lot of politicians not proud of this country. We see them being proud and saying, wow, look how amazing America is. And while we have our politicians and our pundits bad-mouthing our country at every turn, this poor guy losing his job because he supported the country. Even America's worst critics are mounting legal challenges to remain. Just like an anti-Israel rabble-rouser, Mohammed Khalif, who is dying to stay here despite calling our nation an unjust, we'll say, heckhole every 2 seconds. Great country, this America. But back to Chattanooga. Nathan Shearer's father, Charles, was also infuriated. Quote, it just really upset me the whole time riding down. And that he was embarrassed because his grandfather was on board. I don't know what goes on in their household, but if your granddaughter, his granddaughter, I thought it said grandfather. Granddaughter was on board. But if your granddaughter's ears are too sensitive for some good old-fashioned Declaration of America pride, may I suggest she apply to be an intern for Mayor Zohran Mamdani? He delivered a speech on July 3rd that might be more to Shearer's taste, saying of some unnamed powerful cabal, quote, America in their view is an arena of supremacy where only a select few are allowed freedom, where not all are created equal. How cynical. Or perhaps there's a job opening for soon-to-be Congresswoman Claire Valdez, who posted on Twitter, this 4th of July, we recommit ourselves to remaking it, to fight for liberation from Palestine to Puerto Rico, for a Green New Deal for the world we deserve. Who shows up to someone's big birthday party and gives a speech about how much they stink? There are 364 other days of the year to lob insults. Same goes for Shearer. It was America's big, giant, awesome birthday, and a day to be unflinchingly patriotic and reverent, even if that means a little hyperbole. And Kristen Fleming said, look, I don't know what the deal is with Peterson. Maybe he was already on probation for loving America too much and inappropriately touching our flag, or for playing Lee Greenwood on repeat inside his train. Perhaps this was the last straw after he made a habit of showing off his bald eagle tramp stamp tattoo to passengers. Maybe his employer was just looking for an excuse to send him packing, and the Shearer family provided the HR lady the last bit of ammo they needed. Peterson told WTVC, I truly do believe we are the greatest country on earth. My statement about it, if you don't like the country and you don't believe we are the best and you can leave it, is a freedom of the USA that many other countries do not have. Shearer and his father have a right to be offended, but they don't have a right to be taken seriously. Clutching your pearls because someone said love America or leave it is a wild state of affair. The default should be love, not self-loathing. Self-loathing. And that's why Betsy McKay says we are the people that are fighting back against the leftist assault on American heroes. It's Trump and the MAGA movement that are going after the Marxists and the socialists. Biography teaches that individuals, not groups and classes, make history. Heroes inspire. When kids go to college, it's hard to avoid Marxist indoctrination. Instead of laughing it off, set them straight about the brainwashing they're getting and what they have to learn from heroes like George Washington or Douglas MacArthur. America has a great story to tell. Tell it well, and the Marxist will lose. On that note, we're going to talk about Graham Plattner. Wrapping up hour number 1. Get your comments in. We'll be right back.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen. Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Thousands of North Atlantic right whales used to swim along the east coast of the United States and Canada. Collisions with ships and entanglement in fishing gear are killing these magnificent animals every year. They could go extinct in your lifetime. But there's hope. If we act now, before it's too late, join Oceana to save North Atlantic right whales from extinction.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers, an isolated thunderstorm possible after about 5 p.m. A high still in the upper 80s today. Then we'll see lows in the mid-60s overnight with additional shower and storm potential. Friday's high, 83. We'll stay active with some wet weather on Friday, followed by a consistent dry stretch. Temperatures trending up from there, so that will be back with some low 90s as we approach the middle of next.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, getting ready to wrap up hour number 1, as it has been reported all this morning that accused rapist Graham Plattner has finally dropped out of the main Senate race. There was questions of whether or not he actually would. He was trying to strong-arm the Democrat Party into, and we're not sure if that's happened quite yet, but to strong-arm him into the candidate of his choosing. He put what is being called a very narcissistic video up, blaming everybody but himself, blaming the establishment Democrats. We'll see what this means. We're going to talk about it in the next hour. We also have a couple quick New York State updates as well. But first, let's go to this viewer's comment. I'm sorry, I almost forgot to read it. Regarding people who have come here during the World Cup, I saw an article or news report concerning a German citizen who had been brainwashed to think that America is a bad place by the delusional media. However, he was brought to tears as he confessed that he found America to be a great country. Yes, and that's been happening all over. Viral videos, things like being so excited to see a yellow school bus or the love of ranch dressing. I mean, it's really heartwarming because they were celebrating American pride more than many, especially in the media and on the left, were before America 250. It's been very heartwarming. And since you mentioned the World Cup and since you mentioned FIFA, how about this? There's excitement. I know we've got a lot of fans out there. I have yet to announce this. I kind of hinted towards it. Here is the info. Come and have the FIFA 2026 World Cup watch party. This is the big one. This is the final match. You can watch it live right in beautiful Centerway Square on Market Street. A gigantic screen. It looks wonderful. You can see everything with immense detail. It's being brought to us by Gaffer District, Corning Inc., Guthrie, and it's right here on Big Fox. You can watch it at home, or you can come out to Centerway Square. There's going to be food, vendors, festivities. We do recommend you bring a lawn chair, but again, that's Sunday the 19th at 2:45 p.m. We'll be promoting that. Let me tell you, I saw the screen. They were testing it out a couple weeks ago. It's amazing. It's going to be a fun time. All right, that's it for hour number 1. Hour number 2 coming up next.
Hi, this is Tom Witzel, owner of Hustle Sins in Amara Heights. At Hustle Sins, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hustle Sins now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is the start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hustle Sins is still locally and family owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hustle Sins.
Live a carefree, engaging lifestyle at Apple Ridge Senior Living, where exceptional is the standard. It's time to redefine your future. Pursue your passions and make meaningful connections. Enjoy an inclusive and customizable senior living experience. Everything you could want, more than you expect. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and schedule your tour today.
Looking for a meaningful day trip close to home? Visit the historic Elmira Prison Camp, one of the most significant Civil War sites in the North. Walk the grounds, stand where history happened, discover powerful stories of courage, sacrifice, and survival that shaped our nation. Whether you're a history enthusiast, a family looking to learn together, or simply exploring the Finger Lakes region, we offer an experience you won't forget. Plan your visit today at elmiracivilwar.org. Preserve, discover, remember.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers, an isolated thunderstorm possible after about 5 p.m. A high still in the upper 80s today. Then we'll see lows in the mid-60s overnight with additional shower and storm potential. Friday's high, 83. We'll stay active with some wet weather on Friday, followed by a consistent dry stretch. Temperatures trending up from there, so that will be back with some low 90s as we approach the middle of.
And we welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. So the big story coming out late last night, accused rapist Graham Plattner has finally bowed out of the Maine Senate race with a long-winded video statement blaming everyone else but himself for the implosion. He called out large forces, corporate media, and the political establishment. Can you imagine the corporate meeting? Any Democrat ever complaining about the coverage in the corporate media? Look at the people on The View, for instance, defending Plattner up until the last accusation, until he was no longer useful. Saying that, yes, he's a homophobe, yes, he's a sexist and a racist, but I got to hold my nose and vote for him, said Sonny Hostin, paraphrasing a little bit, but not that much. So to call out the corporate media, that always fascinates me. Nancy Pelosi does that every once in a while, where she'll get mad at them saying that they're biased. And you think a Democrat could never handle being a Republican for even 20 seconds. They couldn't. Democrat could never handle it because of look at the questions that Trump gets, the biased questions that Trump gets. You think Pelosi's ever had a question like that? Plattner said, "We believe for the movement to continue, it can't be me, and for that reason, we are suspending campaign operations." So that movement is socialism, anti-Semitism. We had so many examples of Democrats distancing themselves when he was no longer useful. He also said, "I just want to make it clear this is all false. The things that have been claimed did not happen. It's not real." He argued the Democrat establishment used the rape allegation as an excuse to take away all the things that we need to run a campaign. Inside the Plattner's mother's tavern, moments before he dropped the announcement, his mom, Leslie Harlow, kept serving customers. She was greeted by friends who gave her a big hug. It's unclear if the news that he was dropping out had already circulated amongst his family and friends. Plattner had until July 13th to exit the race to be able to easily replace him as the party battles the control for the upper chamber. Yeah, so what we have here is another example where Democrats don't trust their voters. I mean, it's not as if there wasn't the writing on the wall. It wasn't the guy that comes out and decides to run with a Nazi tattoo. You might say, hey, you know what? Maybe there's going to be a couple of red flags we're going to have to deal with here. Maybe we drop it before it becomes an issue. But they didn't. Plattner said this was the last week to try to get me off the ballot, and that's why this is occurring. Ooh, conspiracy theory. Plattner went on to urge the public not to view his decision to withdraw from the race as an admission of guilt. It most certainly is not. We're not doing it because of the allegations. We're doing it because of the structures that are being taken away from us by those in power. Now, Pennsylvania Democrat Senator John Fetterman, who has been no fan of Plattner, who has called him out numerous times, saying, hey, if you release those messages from those dating apps and the apps that has been alleged that younger people use, if you release those so we can see them, I'll start wearing a suit every day. Fetterman told Fox News, the trash took itself out tonight. Now, finally, people in Maine have a chance to vote on someone that's not a total piece of trash. I like that. The trash took itself out tonight. Now, there's we don't have to go through all the old claims that we had before, or not claims, excuse me. Well, we don't have to go into the details. We know that, but also all the people that dropped their support. Plantner did lash out on those who abandoned him, saying, we are going to lose our ability to fundraise. We are going to lose our ability to access voter data. We're going to lose all the things that any campaign needs on the basic level simply to function. Larger organizations, the national level party, the bigger donor networks, they've all committed to spending no money in the race if I'm in it. They would rather see Susan Collins win than have me as the next senator from Maine. So imagine with these allegations, and we're talking numerous allegations, that he can still not blame himself. You know, the first accusation of harming a woman, they wrote off as, well, she's a Republican. Imagine that. We're going to talk about her in just a second. It took the Democrat to accuse him where it was, it's all over. And again, we don't have to go through his whole scandals. We don't actually have time for all of that. And I don't, now you have the nonprofit group Reckoning Action, which was founded by progressive lawyer Cheyenne Hunt, got into contact with Rakat, according to Politico. Hunt endorsed Plantner late last year, but backed off after accusations of him being rough with women were reported at the New York Times. Hunt also backed women who made accusations against disgraced former Representative Eric Swalwell. Yeah, again, I'm going through too much of the history here. But they keep saying it's politically motivated. There's still people upset on the left. Remember, I guess Stephen King, I couldn't find the exact quote. Stephen King, the author, walked back. As of yesterday, he was still saying, or early yesterday, that he still wanted him to stay in the race. Backed off of that. Because remember, the whole idea of believe all women in the Me Too movement was proven, yet again, to be nothing but a political statement to bring down what they deemed as Republicans, or someone that wasn't liberal enough for them. Plantner said, I want to make clear, though I intend to file my paperwork to withdraw, the process needs to assure that what comes next is reflective of the Mariners who on June 9th turned out and showed that they are desperate for a different kind of politics. It needs to be driven not from back rooms, but by the will of the people. He did not name who he'd back as his successor. Yeah, well, who wants to have him backing them, endorsing them? That was said by a Democrat operative a while ago when he was trying to strong-arm the Democrats, when Plantner was trying to strong-arm the Democrats into picking who he chose. Saying who wants to start their campaign out being endorsed by alleged rapist. So we don't know if his strong arm tactics worked, if it was, hey, we'll get out if you pick a socialist. Now, when he says there's this huge groundswell and this huge movement, you've got to remember his closest opponent dropped out of the race. If she wouldn't have dropped out of the race, this could have been a whole different story, because some of these scandals started breaking right before the primary and she'd already dropped out, so there wasn't any kind of campaign apparatus. So it's not, and again, we go back to what happened in New York City with the Democrat Socialists of America. A lot of these candidates had such low voter turnout. Now, that's not the complaint, that's the system. And unfortunately, if people didn't get out to vote, that's the system. And they did themselves a disservice. But to act as if there's this huge groundswell. Well, let's look how CNN reported on it, because I haven't looked completely, but just to see if they sugarcoat it. Maine Democrat Senate nominee, Graham Plantner, said he was suspending his campaign, taking aim at the Democrat establishment while clearing the way for the party to select a new candidate to take on Susan Collins. Plantner's decision comes after a woman told CNN and Politico he raped her while he was heavily intoxicated nearly 5 years ago, and that they were in a casual dating relationship, an allegation that Plantner denies. Plantner said in his 11-minute video, "We believe that for this moment to continue, it can't be me, and for that reason, we are suspending campaign operations." He spent a large portion of the video railing against the Democrat Party establishment that he claimed is using the allegations of sexual assault and dating violence, which he vigorously denied, to undermine him and his movement. It's not the false allegations, though, that have brought us where we are. It's the fact that they are being used by the political establishment to put structural pressure on us. All right, we don't have to read all this. As the video message was sent out, Plantner was delivering the news to his campaign staff on a video call. Plantner was calm. A participant on the call told CNN, with his voice cracking a few times, several younger staffers' eyes became red. again, so he doesn't blame anybody. I guess now we're supposed to essentially feel sad that this is all happening. Maine Senate race is critical for Democrats' hopes of winning a Senate majority in the midterm elections. The party needs a net gain of 4 seats, most of which have come through wins in red states. While well-funded Democrats have fallen short against Collins in previous contests, Democrats believe a favorable national environment could buoy their chances this year in a state that former Vice President Harris won by nearly 7 percentage points. Okay. I do find it, well, anyway. So they're calling it delusional, narcissistic, his 11-minute video ending his Senate bid. He, as I said, he blamed corporate media of all things. Blaming corporate media. The political establishment and even his support for Medicare for all as reasons for the downfall of his scandal-scarred campaign. So many have panned the video as needless, as narcissistic. His campaign literally ended with a whimper, said Ryan James Gerdusky. The failed candidate uploaded the "Woe is me" clip announcing his withdrawal yesterday, of course, after the allegations, and he's denied the allegations. Emily Zanotti, a friend of one of Plantner's exes, one of the exes that accused him of misconduct, said, quote, "This video is more embarrassing than the Nazi tattoo." Wow. Western Lensman, who's a right-wing influencer, I don't know. Graham Plantner announces a real victim, and all of this is Graham Plantner. There, I saved you 11 minutes. Campaign suspended and a whole bunch of bluster, said another. Another social media user said Plantner was trying to submit this for a documentary short at the Oscars. Doug Hay said, coincidentally, 11 minutes is how long it would take to get a PBR at the tune-in when Plantner was working, because he'd be jawing someone at the end of the bar who was doing a slow step away. That's a stretch. Political consultant Mika Erfin noted, it's not the establishment's fault that your ex-lover accused you of raping her. And that shows the hypocrisy in all this, what the Me Too movement was really all about, because you had people right up until the end defending him, essentially telling you, look at Mika Brzezinski yesterday, who we quoted, not telling you to believe all women. It's where's the indisputable proof? And I don't know what that proof would look like, how far she wanted to go with it. But that idea of believe all women, thrown out the door. Larry O'Connor called him a narcissistic sociopath. Others calling him a con man. He entered the stage lying and he leaves the stage lying. He's a really bad guy, said Joe Walsh. He's delusional enough to think this is a moment to preserve political capital and sermonize a self-styled leader rather than his final opportunity to accept moral culpability for the crisis he has created with his poor judgment, at the very least, a coward to the very end. Ed Morrissey said this video was the most arrogant display I've seen in a long while. He didn't lead a movement. He answered a casting call. His entire narrative has been a lie, and he has the nerve to cast himself as the victim here. Yeah, think of that, how sick that is, that he's the victim after what those women have accused him of. Plantner bemoaning, quote, we live in a political system that is not built for normal people. Joshua Reed said, I don't know, dude. Most normal people aren't accused of repeated sexual misconduct, and most normal people don't get Nazi tattoos. Former Obama campaign advisor David Axelrod said Plantner built an admirable movement, but there was nothing admirable about the way he said goodbye. Ooh. I don't know. Was the movement to that casting call? There was a lie by him. Never really an oyster farmer. It was just a part-time thing. I mean, there were so many things here that he was created by kind of Bernie Sanders and the DSA, and the media propped him up. I know I'm running late, but when we return, we're going to hear what James Carville had to say about it. Lissa Farrow from The View. Then Miranda Devine has a hard-hitting piece, and some others. We do have a lot to talk about this morning, so we may not just focus on that, but I'd like to hear your thoughts. I do see a lot of comments coming in. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Let me ask you a question. Does it it matter if the law firm you hire focuses on motor vehicle accidents? Has the experience to take on big insurance? Will go to court to win? Has won over $1 billion for their clients? If that matters to you, come to William Mattar. We are the largest motor vehicle accident firm in the state. Call William Mattar for the recovery you deserve. Hurt in a car, it matters who you hire.
Can you help me?
Mom, Dad, we're going out.
Thank you.
Oh, look, they're playing chess.
What you got there?
Will you help my mom?
She's real sick, huh? Hey, crew, I'll give the first move to anyone who signs up to be an organ donor. How do you do it?
Easy. Just go to organdonor.gov.
You heard him, organdonor.gov.
More donors means more hope. Sign up at organdonor.gov.
I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. An isolated thunderstorm possible after about 5 p.m. A high still in the upper 80s today. Then we'll see lows in the mid-60s overnight with additional shower and storm potential. Friday's high, 83. We'll stay active with some wet weather on Friday, followed by a consistent dry stretch. Temperatures trending up from there, so that will be back with some low 90s as we approach the middle of next week.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. We got a lot of great comments coming in this morning. All right. Frankly, would it be different for the Dems if Plantner had a hammer and sickle tattoo instead? Apparently none of it would be. That'd probably be helpful for him, actually. That would have been, I mean, as a Democrat Socialist of America, probably would have been better for him. But the Nazi tattoo never seemed to bother anybody on the left. Ken writes in, boy, regarding Plantner, once this, oh, no, wait. No, I'm sorry. I got these out of order. Different viewer. This isn't Ken. Ken's here in just a moment. This viewer writes, boy, regarding Plantner, once the slope gets slippery, irretrievably? I should have read that earlier. Irretrievably slippery, the Democrats turn on you like a school of angry, self-righteous piranha. Yeah, once you're no longer useful for their lust for power, yeah, you're out. I mean, it's very similar to Eric Swalwell, right? Eric Swalwell built up by the Pelosi's of the world, built up to almost created in their image, and then when they're no longer helpful, the Democrats are out. Same with Plantner. It was Bernie Sanders, mentor. Bernie Sanders was his mentor. Like, that's who inspired him. We'll continue to help build him up. Ken writes in, I was amazed when I Googled fascist to confirm that I was spelling it correctly. Copilot gave me the below definition of fascist, obviously to help the Democrats propagandize the sheeple into believing the conservatives are horrible people. 1, an advocate or follower of the right-wing political philosophy or system of fascism. Similar, authoritarian, totalitarian, Nazi, rightist, black shirt, autocrat, nationalist, xenophobe, racist, neo-fascist, neo-Nazi, corporatist, Hitlerite. I'm going to skip the other ones. Far right-winger, extreme right-winger. Opposite, Democrat and liberal. 2, a person who is extremely authoritarian, intolerant, or oppressive. 3, a person who is very intolerant or domineering in a particular area. When I Google liberal, the definition is the opposite. They are great totalitarian experts, people. They are great, tolerant people. Sorry, I had that word in my mouth. Google. Well, let's face it. Google is very good at pushing propaganda. Jack writes in and says, good morning. Good morning, Jack. Imagine a civilization consumed by hatred where nearly all information comes from a single source. When people hear only one version of events, they often develop one shared perspective. Now imagine that country's leaders have been assassinated. With the leadership fractured, are military units still receiving instructions through radios or cell phones, or are they now acting independently based on the last order they received? It makes me wonder about Iran's current situation. It also reminds me of the deep political divisions we face here in the United States. Many people rely primarily on media that reinforces one political viewpoint, whether from the left or the right, and that can deepen polarization instead of encouraging understanding. Perhaps there's a lesson here about the consequences of division and the importance of hearing different perspectives. Thank God for our country and for programs like Frankly Speaking. Thank you. Thoughtful, open discussions should be the rule rather than the exception. Yes, I would agree. Thank you very much, Jack. Very good point. So veteran Democrat strategist James Carville blasted Democrats for failing to properly vet Graham Plattner. You know, I saw a headline the other day. We did not see that coming. We did not see that coming. Wouldn't the Nazi tattoo, have been enough to realize, well, we vetted him. He's not our guy. But see, they thought they were building a powerhouse of kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Working class people that wanted something different, and they thought they could push them towards socialism. So they were fine. They were blinded. I mean, it goes back to what Sonny Hoyston said before the last rape accusation came out, that he's a racist, a xenophobe, what else? Anti-Semitic. But I would hold my nose and vote for him. But so I don't think this idea that everybody's now blaming the vetting is necessarily the case, because again, the Nazi tattoo should have been disqualifying. Now, Democrat Party leaders and liberal commentators who once defended Plattner amid previous scandals ranging from controversial rhetoric to a Nazi-associated tattoo have since denounced him over sexual assault allegations. Carville said the Plattner rise, this is James Carville, the Plattner rise was also a rise of a different attitude set. It was a consultants of like 27, 28 years ago, or let me try that again. It was a consultants of like 27, 28 years old, and they were not sort of straitjacketed by the old rules of politics. And it looked like they had some real success. I mean, they won. They knocked the incumbent governor, couldn't even run, and they were kind of ahead in the polls. If I look back at this, you didn't vet your own candidate? You mean you didn't know? Okay, we used to get our own opposition research to do an opposition research book on us. It's the most important research you can do. And so they took off in this campaign, and all of this was recent. It wasn't way back in some other time. I don't think they knew. I don't think they wanted to know. It's so 80s to do a briefing on your own candidate to find out what's wrong with him. But you know, there are certain rules in politics. He blanked up. He's been shot at. He's a veteran. He's a little bit weird. Oh, yeah, this is when he was defending him a couple months ago. He's an oyster man. Maybe we need a combat veteran right on the Senate floor who is blanked up. One noteworthy part of the previous defense was in World War II comparison, where he argued, you know, if Franklin Roosevelt and Winston Churchill could work with Joseph Stalin, who, by the way, I'll tell you this, he was a bad guy, a really bad guy, all right, that I can overlook a tattoo. So remember, that's when he was defending him. That goes to show you, they'll change. Once it's over, it's all over but the shouting. That's when all of a sudden, I knew it. They should have vetted him. Yeah, he defended him in some really bad ways too. But now it's all I knew this whole time. Should have been the vetting. The same Alyssa Farah Griffin on The View. So the Democrat Party botched vetting of Maine Senate candidate Graham Plattner. Do you accept this premise that it was just the vetting? He had a Nazi tattoo. He had other accusations, and he still won the primary. I'm just struck by how Democrats botched this so badly, though. Because to your point, the path to Democrats taking the Senate, I think, always ran through Maine, Griffin said. Ooh, brilliant statement, Griffin. Did you get that on your own? Because there's a lot of people that have been saying that for a long time, but okay, I've always thought it was through Maine. That was always going to be one of the important pickup seats. They had 6 years to recruit against Susan Collins and vet somebody, and to look into their past statement, to look into their tattoos that they might have. I mean, listen, Texas just nominated a lunatic in Ken Paxton, so it's not like the other party isn't guilty of this as well. But when the stakes are so high, and when the path to the Senate runs through this, how were they not able to find this? And this is where I think consultants did know. I think consultants did know. I think that a lot of people who are making a lot of money around him knew. There were whispers. Now there's reports, but that he had issues with women and people kept saying, no, look away. No, the media kept saying, no, look away. It was people on The View that keep saying, no, look away. This is Eric Swalwell all over again. He was built up, and then when he's no longer useful. Remember that one reporter actually said, I had heard the accusations against Eric Swalwell, but because I was reporting on a different beat and not the political beat or women's rights beat, I didn't do the job. So essentially the argument was not my job. The media has been defending him this whole time. It was a bridge just too far when it was no longer a Republican accusing of him of this. It was a Democrat. That's when they realized it would gain some traction. Whoopi Goldberg said, I don't know, given what's happened just in our world right now, how the country, who's in charge of it. I think people held their nose and said, I'm going to take a step, she said. Goldberg said people voted for flawed candidates despite allegations such as these. The co-hosts have had several debates about Plattner, during which Hosted called him a racist, a homophobe, and an anti-Semite, but said she would support him anyway due to the state of the country. So remember this when they're lecturing you, whether they're lecturing you about the Me Too movement, whether they're lecturing you about taking the high ground. Remember this. Anyway, that's enough on the View. We've spent plenty of time on the View the last few days. So I'm going to tell you about the first woman that accused him, or one of the first women that accused him, when we return. Keep your comments coming in. Just run a tad bit late. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
When it comes to fun, it's what we do. See Parmalee perform country hits like Just the Way, Cowgirl, and more on Thursday, July 16th at 8 p.m. Tickets at Ticketmaster.com and the gift shop. Tioga Downs Casino Resort. Fun is what we do.
Live a carefree, engaging lifestyle at Apple Ridge Senior Living, where exceptional is the standard. It's time to redefine your future. Pursue your passions and make meaningful connections. Enjoy an inclusive and customizable senior living experience. Everything you could want, more than you expect. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and schedule your tour today.
Yeah, hello. I'm really not sure if this is what you all do, but I really don't have anywhere else to turn.
Hi. I don't even know why I'm calling right now. I'm sorry. My thoughts are going a mile a minute.
My kids are out of state. My buddies from the Army are all gone now. I'm really alone.
I left the service last year. My mom just passed away a few months ago. I miss so much time with her. I keep getting calls about the bills, and I'm trying to get a job, but I feel so stuck.
Okay, ma'am. I'm glad you called.
Okay, sir. Let's stay on the line and walk through some things.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
When it's to fun, it's what we do. See Parmalee perform country hits like Just the Way, Cowgirl, and more on Thursday, July 16th at 8 p.m. Tickets at Ticketmaster.com and the gift shop. Tioga Downs Casino Resort.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. So what is interesting to learn, and when we talk about the Me Too movement and Believe All Women, Lindsay Fifield. Betrayal is the word that comes to mind for her interaction with the New York Times, saying the paper had tainted her story about Graham Plattner. The bombshell report published Monday by Politico rocked the political landscape. We know that. The claim, which Rakat had said she was raped, prompted prominent Democrats to call for him to step aside, and Plattner officially dropped out of the race. Both Rakat and Fifield were interviewed by the Times in a story published last month about Plattner's unsettling behavior with women. But the report included a focus of Field's conservative politics, trying to, remember this, again, when they take the high ground. They try to take the high ground. The New York Times did not focus on the accusations. They wanted to discredit it by highlighting her conservative politics. Field told Fox News, the New York Times piece, people are looking back at that with absolute horror and just saying like, holy, this is like terrible. This is truly gruesome what you've done to these women. They said very insistently, wait. There are other women who are very afraid to come forward. They do not want to tell their stories because of how vulnerable they are, and you can help them and we can protect them. I don't want to do this. They made me feel guilty that if I didn't go on record, then Jenny and the other unnamed women, that their stories wouldn't get told. Before the story was published, the Times reporters connected Field with Rakat. She found it strange, but was told by the reporters that Rakat had no one and was totally isolated because of Rakat's far-left social circle that was supportive of Plantner's campaign. Wow. They said she really needed a friend and you will understand her, and they were right about that. We have become friends. Field was angst by the Times published report that prominently featured her after the reporters gave her the impression that allegations from the other women would be included. I'm out here on my own. I'm the only one photographed, and there's 11 paragraphs of my work history. Like, what is this? So the New York Times tried to discredit her and ruin her. This is what the media has done throughout history. Look at the Bill Clinton years. Field was puzzled when the Times reporters urged her to avoid the public's response to the story shortly after it was published, as she peppered with questions about the finished product. They were like, oh, Lindsay, just stay off social media. Don't listen to people who are being critical of you. Don't listen to them. Put your phone away. Go out to the lake. Go on vacation. Enjoy your babies. You did a brave thing. That was huge. You're so brave for doing this, and we really appreciate it. We're here if you need anything. It was just like gaslighting. She doesn't believe that they're evil or that they're villains, but what occurred was pretty evil. They were like slow walking into the week of the primary. They contacted us on April 15th. There was no reason that they shouldn't have been able to get the story out that week. It makes me sick to realize that that's what they were doing now. Yeah, they tried to use her. They tainted the story. Conservative critics on social media have accused the Times of using catch and kill tactics to shield Plantner so allegations of sexual misconduct would never see the light of day. Of course that was their ultimate goal. That goes without saying. They wanted to get Plantner across that finish line. The women that credibly accused him, never mind their story, they're not important. What's important is that D in that Senate seat. Think of that. A spokesman for the Times, the New York Times, said, the Times' June 4th reporting on Graham Plantner and his pattern of behavior was a powerful and original piece of journalism that presented deeply personal accounts and many new facts for the first time. As a result of what this original article broke open, the Times and other outlets continued to produce groundbreaking, independent reporting that revealed even more new details about the sensitive and upsetting experiences that women who knew Plantner went through. In the ensuing weeks, partisan commentators and politically aligned media have put forward false allegations and criticism about the Times' journalism process. The story carefully reported that we could confirm at the time was factually accurate and fair and alerted the public to important new information. Back to her point, gaslight. To cover their you-know-what. Now, Miranda Devine, there's a couple different pieces on this, but we'll save that. But Mark Penn first, and then we'll give you Miranda Devine's take on this because we always appreciate her take. But Mark Penn says, Federalist number 62, written by James Madison, outlines the nature of the Senate and the qualifications of senators. They were older, more removed from politics, with 6-year staggered terms, and meant to cool the hot-tempered passions of the House of Representatives. Guest Maine Democrat Senate candidate Graham Plantner and the party organizers didn't read that one. They're recruiting senators with exactly the opposite qualifications: inexperienced, reckless, flamboyant, and unstable. Plantner was unqualified from day one. He had zero life accomplishments of any note. His political viewpoints were extreme, and he had no understanding of the complex issues that a senator would need to be effective. No matter, Democrat leaders showered him with support as a new kind of TikTok Democrat. And that is typically what the left is recruiting today and selling to its voters. It's the bartender idea like AOC won on. They're using the same bag of tricks, and will it work without the vetting? Since no response, and I still don't think it was the vetting, they want this kind of wild style. It worked for AOC. It worked for Zohran Mamdani. Since no responsible, mature, experienced candidate would be for far-left ideas like socialism, open borders, and abolishing prison, they need to recruit completely inexperienced cutouts like Mamdani, who smile, speak forcefully, and stir the passions of young voters with radical ideas on social media. The Plantner nomination fits the new mold: brash, willing to say anything, completely unqualified. It's the opposite of how the founders conceived of senators, but exactly what the left wants to install in the Senate so they can be the useful idiots they need elected by uninformed voters. But right at the beginning, there were questions, beginning with a Nazi tattoo. The Planter nomination fits the, said that already. Along with the tattoo were extreme anti-Israel views, which by themselves would not be anti-Semitic, but when combined with a tattoo, strongly suggested views that verged on anti-Semitism. Yet they seemed almost to be considered qualifying rather than disqualifying. Yeah, that anti-Semitism in the Democrat Socialists of America, but also just the Democrat Party in general. The enthusiasm for Plantner among Democrat primary voters was so strong that the sitting experienced governor of the state ended her own campaign. Anti-Semitism is an anti-Americanism, and no tent of any party should be big enough to make room for it. Candidates like Graham Plantner should be disqualified right at the beginning. And, that's something to keep in mind as what Mark Penn says. But if you remember what Gavin Newsom said, as we quoted yesterday, he believes the Democrat Party should be in the addition game, not the subtraction game, when asked about socialism, saying, we'll take the socialists in, the Big Ten idea. Sporting a Nazi tattoo along with the online content and comments that he made, from backing communism to demeaning women, should have been enough for Democrat leaders to say no to his candidacy from the beginning. But the left-wing Democratic primary machine these days is powerful enough to nominate virtually anyone for any position and get the rest of the peanut gallery to go along and provide cover. It's why Hochul saw this coming, and they claim it was brilliant. It wasn't. But why she endorsed Mamdani, because she didn't want a far-left opponent in the primary. Now, again, Politico saying it was a brilliant move how she handled it. No, all she had to do was cave to Mamdani. But continuing, in contrast to Plantner, Republican incumbent Senator Susan Collins is the epitome of what it should mean to be a senator. I don't agree with this. This is Mark Penn, but just your thoughts. She is thoughtful, experienced, works hard on behalf of the Senate, and has frequently stood up against her party on major issues. She was being depicted by the Democrats as a conservative thug, dismissing her real record. The rest of the story is history now. The New York Times ran an expose about Plantner's issues with women in a manner that seemed to give him a pass and downplay the accusations, which came from a Republican-leaning woman. Democrats yawned at it, all until the rape allegations from a Democrat came out in the last few days, finally causing the 40 major Democratic endorsers to back off of the Nazi tattooed candidate. Think about that. Everything that we learned about him, the disgusting comments, the Nazi tattoo, because, heaven forbid, you had a Republican that was accusing him of mistreating her. There was nothing there. It took it to the point where it had to be a Democrat that accused him of rape before the media and before people like Gillibrand, people like Schumer, like Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, who recently said that Plantner was her kind of man, before they would reverse their endorsement. But it's a disgrace for the Democrat Party that it ever endorsed someone with this kind of obviously bad behavior and lack of qualifications for one of the most important offices in the nation. It calls into question all of their endorsements and the process of selecting candidates who not only get votes, but who have the qualities and vision for senators. Failing to put up qualified candidates eventually will hollow out the whole institution of the Senate and turn it into the partisan chambers the founders hoped to avoid. All right, we got to take a break. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in. One more thing about Graham Plantner, and then we'll be back. And then we'll talk. Then we'll change it up. But all that coming up after this. We'll be right back.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
When it's a home improvement, Horsehead's Do It Center has you covered. Family owned, locally trusted, and packed with everything you need for any project. From top quality tools to kitchen and bath essentials, we make it easy. Competitive prices, expert advice, friendly service. Visit us at 124 North Main Street or online at doitbest.com/horseheads today.
It's the tea party for Crystal with Miss Marshmallow.
Oh, wow.
And Sarah's first day of management training at Goodwill. When you donate to Goodwill, you help provide skills training and career placement. And the things you love start a new life too.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers, an isolated thunderstorm possible after about 5 p.m. A high still in the upper 80s today. Then we'll see lows in the mid 60s overnight with additional shower and storm potential. Friday's high, 83. We'll stay active with some wet weather on Friday, followed by a consistent dry stretch. Temperatures trending up from there, so that will be back with some low 90s as we approach the
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Miranda Devine at the New York Post said the party of Me Too has shown its true face in the Graham Plantner scandal. Now that a liberal woman has credibly accused him of rape, the rats have deserted the sinking ship, and the Democrat-endorsed U.S. Senate candidate for Maine has dropped out. But it's Me Too late to save face. Conservatives always knew the left's effort to assert moral superiority on matters of sex, race, and ideology were play acting. But now it's undeniable for even their most blinkered supporters. The Democrat Party's defense of Plantner to the bitter end against an avalanche of rape and sexual abuse allegations, not to mention his Nazi tattoo, has left them exposed as hypocrites yet again. The weaponizing moral outrage against the right while rationalizing far worse on their own side. They waved away reports of Plantner's issues with women when they first surfaced 2 months ago in the form of Reddit posts in which he downplayed sexual assault and suggested victims had themselves to blame if they got drunk. Those disturbing comments were dismissed as old and irrelevant and were excused on the pretext that Plantner was suffering from PTSD, an insult to military veterans who don't treat rape like a legitimate spoil of masculinity. And this is very much like they would throw PTSD around with him like they did with Biden originally having a stutter, right? If you question his mental acuity, they would say, well, are you picking on his stutter as he was a child? But I'll continue. In any case, Plantner, 41 years old, wrote the post a decade ago when he was old enough to know better. Senator John Fetterman was the lone voice in the Democrat Party calling out Plantner from the start as a creep and a dirtbag. Fetterman dubbing him P-Hustle, the name Plantner used on Kik, K-I-K, which is a grooming messaging app for underage kids where he sent explicit messages for a decade and as recently as last year. When Plantner was revealed to have cheated on his new wife, by those text messages, at least 6 women after getting married in 2023, Democrats said he was a good, decent man who struggled and grown. A month ago, the New York Times published its soft soap catch and kill story in which multiple ex-girlfriends described unsettling encounters with Plantner, including physical intimidation. Democrats again excused Plantner by attacking a victim who was a conservative, happened to be a conservative. They attacked her and not Plantner, Lindsay Fielfield. The Times chose to highlight Fielfield while burying the graphic rape claim of another alleged victim, Jenny Rakaka, a liberal ex-girlfriend of Plantner who might have attracted more sympathy from the readers. Seems like a lot of nothing, said Democrat Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. The only one who had anything to say that seemed unsettling was a woman who works for right-wing political operations. By design, as Fielfield would later bitterly complain. It was that betrayal by the Times that persuaded Rakaka to come forward again this week to catalog her shocking rape claim. She saw the abuse that the New York Times put on Miss Fielfield. Another abuse, having to relive that again and just to destroy her. It's sickening. It really is what the New York Times and others have done here. She alleged to Politico and CNN, and we know all about the story. Times reporter Jodi Kantor, who won a Pulitzer for her Me Too takedowns, opined to CNN last month that Plantner wasn't guilty of Me Too infractions because they were mostly made in the context of consensual relationships. And that's okay then. According to the person who won Pulitzer Prizes for the Me Too takedowns, Jodi Kantor, who works for the New York Times, it's okay. That even though she said stop because it was in consensual relationships at the time, it was okay. It was this kind of endorsement from the gatekeepers of left-wing morality that allowed Plantner to stay in the race until Wednesday. The Nazi tattoo he proudly supported for almost 2 decades should have been a warning, but Democrats cared only about power. The hypocrisy from the same people who accused Elon Musk of giving a Nazi salute when he innocently raised his arm on stage at a Trump rally, and who rail against Trump and MAGA Republicans as fascist, is astonishing. Elizabeth Warren saying of Planter, he's my kind of man. He sure is, and Democrats are saddled with his legacy. They are back where they were in June of 2024, held hostage by a fatally flawed candidate who blew himself up at the 11th hour and then demanded he choose his own successor. We mentioned this yesterday. They haven't learned a thing from the Biden fiasco. Again, they only have themselves to blame for trying to fool the voters with a candidate who was not what he appeared to be. Joe Biden was not honest, modest, or moderate. He just pretended to be. He was not the grown-up in the room who would end the chaos and unify the country. He was a divisive revolutionary with cognitive problems who flung open the border and wreaked damage on this country that will take a generation to get over. Similar, Plantner was not a working-class oyster man with a heart of gold, but an alleged rapist, rabid communist anti-Semite, and proven pathological liar born with a silver spoon in his mouth who recklessly abused his privilege all his life. Like so many spoiled rich kids, he never grew up. His mother's restaurant was reportedly his only oyster customer, and his father paid for his house. Part of our thesis here is that people do not want their candidates grown in vats, said Daniel Moreff, an ex-Bernie Sanders staffer and socialist recruiter who discovered Plantner. Times columnist Michael Goldberg admitted that this week Plantner's appeal was working class, married to uncompromising lefty politics, a commie and a Mainer's costume. Ruben Gallego said this man is an authentic man. No, Plantner cosplayed authenticity with his flannel shirts and gravelly voice. He was a caricature of what the left thinks is an authentic white working class man, a marginal upgrade from Tim Walz. After demonizing masculinity for a decade, Democrats have driven authentic men out of their party and can't even recognize the real thing anymore. They insulted men and working class by insisting that a person of Plantner's low character represented their values. Hilariously, it did not work. The white working class voters who are key to winning the light blue state smelled a phony despite his vow to right corporate greed and the billionaire oligarchy. Plantner was trailing Republican incumbent Susan Collins by 23 points with white non-college educated voters. If he hadn't dropped out of the polls, if he hadn't dropped out and his polls hadn't been tanking, chances are Democrats would still circle the wagons around their Frankenstein monster. They'd hold their nose and vote for the devil if the devil could beat Donald Trump. That is the sole moral calculus these days and the source of the party's collapse, and they have made no bones about it. Instead of coming up with an alternative policy for the betterment of the country, they just lazily lean into the Trump derangement syndrome they have stoked in their base for a decade. It worked in 2020 when they tricked the electorate with honest Joe Biden, but like the Iranians with the Strait of Hormuz, it's a Trump card you can only play once. All right, on that note, we got to take a break. Keep those comments coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Live a carefree, engaging lifestyle at Apple Ridge Senior Living, where exceptional is the standard. It's time to redefine your future. Pursue your passions and make meaningful connections. Enjoy an inclusive and customizable senior living experience. Everything you could want, more than you expect. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and schedule your tour today.
We are the keepers of the wild, America's original and most invested conservationists. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving wildlife and the natural landscapes that define our nation. From rugged alpine ridgelines to peaceful tall grass prairies, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. Our funding has led to cleaner water, fresher air, and improved wildlife habitat. From abundant fish and waterfowl populations to robust deer and elk herds, nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters, stewards of the American outdoors.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Some comments from viewers. Mark writes that if Plantner wasn't guilty, he should have stayed in the race and not caved, no matter what the Democrats wanted him to do. Well, his argument, and I get what you're saying, his argument is that none of the money would be coming in to help him run. But you're right. Instead of having them take him out if he's not guilty, why not continue to run even if it's going to cost Democrats? Rick writes in, good morning, Frank. Good morning. Trump says while sitting with President Zelensky, all I've done my whole life is make deals. That's the joke of the century. When I watch Trump in a setting like this, I feel ashamed for our country. The Republicans couldn't come up with something better. He is such a stain on America. Just changed it. Oh, he's writing throughout the day. The Iran ceasefire is over, according to Donald. Wonder how much he spent on oil stocks yesterday. Oil prices spiked today. Insider, lucky man Donald. He is about to hold a news conference at the NATO summit. Time to take the garbage out and do some running around. They're scum. They're vicious, violent people. That's what Trump said about the Iranians. A week ago, they were great to work with. Newsflash, Planter is out. Bravo. Towards the end of the NATO meeting, Trump said some NATO leaders were telling him that they loved him. What a bunch of baloney. That they might have shown him his number, but they definitely don't love him. What a nitwit. You lost the war with Iran, Donald. You're worthless. Wow, never seen someone celebrate hoping that we not no one, but just a party in general, hoping that we lose a war where it's not over as far as I can tell. The ceasefire is. You can make that argument. There are main Democrats who could run to replace Graham Plantner. Obviously, there are going to be, but there's three that CNN's naming. Now, the New York or Fox News believes it's Valley Geiger who will replace Plantner. The Maine state representative, a Rockland Democrat, former nurse and former mayor, is drawing sudden national attention after saying Graham Plantner encouraged her to consider taking his place on the ballot. So that's not to say that she's the only one, but she got ahead of the game, which is very smart. Plantner, you know all about that. So we'll be watching that. Now, when we return, because, yes, we're almost done with today's edition of Frankly Speaking, so get your last-second comments in. We'll wrap up an interesting piece by Bruce Blakeman, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and the drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at SCORE.org.
Meteorologist Brandon Weathers, an isolated thunderstorm possible after about 5 p.m. A high still in the upper 80s today. Then we'll see lows in the mid-60s overnight with additional shower and storm potential. Friday's high, 83. We'll stay active with some wet weather on Friday, followed by a consistent dry stretch. Temperatures trending up from there, so that will be back with some low 90s as we approach the middle of next week.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. As I said, Politico believes that Kathy Hochul not having a far-left challenger is just a brilliant move by her, but she caved to everything that Mom Donnie wanted of her, and she endorsed him ahead of time. It's just like when we talked about last week where former Governor Andrew Cuomo would cave to far-left demands like bail reform, green energy initiatives, because he didn't want to challenge her. She did the same thing. But Bruce Blakeman, Republican gubernatorial candidate, is accusing Kathy Hochul of religious bigotry for enforcing a transgender rights law she approved that is forcing Catholic nuns who run a hospice program to choose between their beliefs or caring for indigent, terminally ill patients. The controversy concerning the Dominican Sisters of Hawthorne in Westchester County, who run Rosary Hill Home, a Catholic hospice for the poor. The order filed a federal lawsuit accusing the state of violating their constitutional rights with a 2024 law that requires the facility to affirm patients' gender identity in regards to pronouns, room assignments, and restroom usage. The law bars nursing or long-term care facilities from discriminating against any resident based on the resident's actual or perceived sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression, or HIV status. But the Trump Justice Department recently intervened in the case on behalf of the Dominican Sisters, claiming New York is engaged in religious discrimination. Blakeman told the New York Post, "What Kathy Hochul is doing to the Dominican Sisters of Hawthorne is absolute disgrace. For over 120 years, these incredible women have done God's work, providing unconditional love, comfort, and dignity to people in their final days. They are saints walking among us, and they represent the absolute best of New York. Kathy Hochul is actually willing to shut them down, strip away their licenses, and throw terminal cancer patients out on the street, all to enforce her woke garbage." Blakeman said of Hochul, who is Catholic, she would rather leave dying people without care than allow Catholic nuns to practice their faith. Forcing these sisters to destroy the privacy of dying women by putting biological men in their rooms is sick, un-American, and a total war on common sense. I'm drawing a line in the sand right now. This radical gender nonsense ends the second I become governor. We are going to protect the people who protect our most vulnerable. We are bringing sanity back to the state. Rosary Hill's home policy puts state patients in single-sex rooms, biological males or females. Male patients must room with male patients, and female patients must room with female patients. Rose Hill Home also separates its floor by sex, alternating men and women's floors, and you get the idea. Hochul campaign surrogate said it was Blakeman who was siding with homophobes. Bruce Blakeman wants to follow Trump's lead to deny elderly LGBTQ+ New Yorkers the care that they need with the most vulnerable. Weaponizing seniors' health to score political points is gross, and joining with homophobes who want to eliminate same-sex marriage in America is despicable. New Yorkers want leaders who unite us, not the extremists of Blakeman. Now, Hochul is offering $75 million of your money in grants to police agencies that follow the anti-ICE law. So not only is our anti-ICE policy despicable and disgusting in this state, it's also costing you, the taxpayers, $75 million to quote-unquote enforce. All right, that does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you to everybody who joined us. Thanks for all the great conversation. We had a great time this morning. And I think I speak for all of us. So join in tomorrow morning for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV Big Fox. We'll see you bright and early at 6. I look forward to it already.
You don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.